Hi, everybody, and welcome to Lovefraud Live. When you're romantically involved with a sociopath, the top 5 lies that you hear are so big and so fundamental to your relationship that it never occurs to you to question them. I'm Donna Andersen, author of Lovefraud.com, and tonight I'll explain these top 5 brazen lies from your sociopathic partner. At the end of my presentation, I'll answer your questions. To join the chat or ask a question, please subscribe to this channel. Okay, when you become romantically involved with a sociopath, he or she will be lying to you from the very beginning of your involvement, although you won't realize it right away. Eventually, you may start catching some inconsistencies, like he said he was here and now he says he's over there, or she said she did this and now she says she did that. So you shrug your shoulders, assuming that you misunderstood. Or you'll ask for clarification, which your partner will answer with more lies, although you won't realize that either. So you may recognize that your partner exaggerates or likes to spin stories or even offers contradictory explanations. But you probably won't spot the big lies, the 5 statements that you change your life for, even though they are totally false. Here they are. Number 1, you can trust me. Sociopaths are good at getting you to talk, especially in the beginning of an involvement, when they flatter you and love bomb you. So you may open up about your dreams, your heartfelt desires, and your fears. You may reveal a painful past, saying you can't handle another heartbreak. You may disclose how someone took advantage of your good nature or your money. The sociopath listens with apparent empathy and proclaims, "I would never do that to you. You can trust me." Later on, when everything collapses, you realize that the sociopath listened to your dreams, desires, and fears and used them to manipulate you. He or she totally violated your trust. Here's number 2. I love you. Sociopaths are not capable of authentic love. This is the core of the disorder. So when a sociopath says, "I love you," it's a lie. Now, sociopaths can be attracted to you, and they can want to have sex with you. But real love, being concerned about your well-being and willing to put your interest before their own when necessary, well, sociopaths are not capable of that. Sociopaths have learned, however, that when they say the words, "I love you," they get what they want. So they tell you that they love you, perhaps sooner than you think is realistic. But everyone wants to believe a proclamation of love, so you believe them. And you give the sociopath what he or she wants. Later, the sociopath continues proclaiming undying love, while his or her behavior isn't loving at all, and you're totally confused. To clear up the confusion, here's what to do. Recognize that when a sociopath says, "I love you," he or she really means, "I want something from you." Here's number 3. I'll pay you back. Many sociopaths, although not all, regard their romantic partners as a source of revenue. In fact, some of these parasites work their partners the way normal people work a job. They figure out, sometimes through trial and error, the best way to extract money out of you. They may try appealing to your sympathy, telling you that they're having a rough week, a rough year, or a rough life, and can you help them out? Or they'll have a surefire plan to make money. They just need an investment to get started. Or they have funds coming in from a business deal or a lawsuit or an inheritance. Can you float a temporary loan? Sociopaths always promise to pay you back. And after they have your money, they may disappear. If they don't, it's because they intend to squeeze you for more. In fact, they may actually pay you back at first. That's only to soften you up for the kill, when they bleed you dry. Sociopaths believe they are entitled to have whatever they want, no matter how they get it. And if you're dumb enough to fall for their empty promises, well, that's your problem, not theirs. Here's number 4. I'll never cheat on you. My sociopathic ex-husband actually admitted to me early in our involvement that he had cheated on previous romantic partners. But he said to me, "You're everything I ever wanted in a woman. I'll never cheat again." Well, I later discovered that as he was saying this to me, he was already involved with multiple other women. Sociopaths are promiscuous. They are always searching for excitement, they get bored easily, and they feel entitled to get what they want. For all these reasons, they cheat. They also cheat because it's fun. One of a sociopath's greatest thrills is getting over on people. And what could be better than having your partner believe that you are totally faithful, when, in fact, you're having plenty of affairs? Well, for sociopaths, there is something better, which I talked about last week. It's having multiple partners in the same room or the same situation and them not realizing it. Now, that's really fun cheating. Finally, here's number 5. We'll have a great life together. When sociopaths are seducing a romantic partner, a typical strategy is to ask you about your most cherished dreams and desires, and then promise to make them come true. They paint a glowing picture of your life together, with romantic walks into the sunset, lots of kids, material success, or whatever it is that you truly want. It's what they want too, so they say, and together the two of you will make it happen. Some of it may in fact come true, but what they don't tell you is the price you will pay in abuse. Emotional, psychological, physical, sexual, financial, and/or spiritual abuse. You'll be walking on eggshells, trying to keep your sociopathic partner from flying into a rage. Or you'll endure the silent treatment for infractions that you apparently committed, although you have no idea what they were. You're always trying to pay the bills, while the sociopathic partner continues to spend money with abandon. You may feel like you've lost yourself, although you don't know how it happened. Here's the truth of what happened. The sociopath lied to you profoundly. None of these statements were ever true. You can trust me. I love you. I'll pay you back. I'll never cheat on you. And we'll have a great life together. It was never you. Nothing you could have done would have made your partner treat you any better. Although you didn't realize it in the beginning, perhaps you realize it now. Your relationship with the sociopath was always a complete lie. That's the presentation for tonight. Next, I'll answer your questions. If you want in-depth advice about your own situation, I do offer personal consultations and a deep emotional release service. There's a link in the description below this video. Okay, so let's see what we have here. Christine Wisdom says, sociopaths don't care. Yes, that absolutely is the truth. And that's one of the points that I made when I talked about how sociopaths, when they say I love you, that's one of the things that they say, which is a lie. Researchers have determined that there are 3 components to romantic love, and they are attraction or attachment, the desire to be with somebody, sex, which is self-explanatory, and caregiving. And what that means is when you truly love someone, you want to take care of them, you want them to be happy and healthy and successful in life. Well, sociopaths can do attachment and they can do sex. They do not do caregiving. It's just simply, they can't. They can't put anybody else before themselves. And so consequently, this is why I say that they do not have the ability to authentically love, because they won't put anybody before themselves. I mean, not even their mother, not even their kids, and certainly not their romantic partners, unless they figure out. Although it can look that way, because sometimes sociopaths can engage in what's called prosocial behavior. And what that means is that they do good things for people. They do nice things for people. For example, if you especially early in a relationship, you may meet a guy who, comes and fixes your car and paints your house, or, does all these things for you, gets you food at the grocery store. Or you may meet a woman who mixes your drinks and does your laundry and is happy to take care of your kids. And so you see this behavior that appears to be caring and loving. But the thing to understand about sociopaths is even when they're engaging in this type of caretaking behavior, there is always an agenda. There is always an ulterior motive. They're doing it in order to get you to reciprocate, or to get you to think that they're a good person so that they can pull the rest of their scam, whatever that may be. So when sociopaths engage in prosocial behavior, it's not authentic. There's always there's just something that they're trying to achieve. They have an objective. They're trying to accomplish some kind of a goal, and they'll take these steps in order to accomplish the goal, which is why they're so easy. They find it so easy to lie about everything or anything that they want. So that's why, in this particular presentation, I talked about the top 5 lies. And the thing is that when somebody promises you to love you, to be your romantic partner, you just don't question that, and all these other things. And that's what makes it so difficult. Okay, so... Right. Okay. So Susie says, my ex would leave if I was ever sick. He would leave the house, but yet whenever he was ill, he wanted me to pamper him and care for him. And that is so typical. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I've heard that particular situation. In fact, that's actually a pretty good way of figuring out whether or not, or it's a pretty good clue to whether or not you're with a sociopath, is how the person treats you when you're sick, or how the person treats you when you need assistance. A sociopath simply can't be bothered. I've heard horror stories. I've heard stories of, several women have told me that, they're about to give birth to the sociopath's child, and he can't get out of bed to take him to the hospital. I mean, that's how bad it is. So, it's really, that's a really good clue for figuring out whether or not you're dealing with a sociopath. So Lisa says the same thing. My ex wouldn't take care of me when I got sick. And that's exactly, what I'm saying here, is that they just can't do it. They can't be bothered. And This is actually an important thing to recognize if you're in a long-term relationship, or if you're meeting somebody later in life. This is a topic that I covered in my book, Senior Sociopaths, in that these disordered people may be looking for someone to take care of them. If you're over 50 or over 60, believe me, there's plenty of sociopaths who are out there on the dating sites in that age group, who are looking for partners. And the disordered individuals are looking for someone who can take care of them, when they get old and infirm. And the other thing that happens is that if you're in one of these situations and your partner or a spouse if you suspect this person is a sociopath, you need to recognize that if you get older and have medical issues, this person is not going to take care of you. And I've heard horror stories about this too. There's one woman had a car accident and she had a traumatic brain injury, and her sociopath husband essentially locked her in a room for 7 years and collected money from the government for taking care of her when he didn't do anything. She was just in the room for 7 years. So it's good to be aware of this, because if you're thinking of getting out of the situation, well, first of all, if you realize that your spouse is disordered, I recommend that you do, because it's never going to get any better. But you have to think about, what's going to happen if you're old and in a wheelchair or something like this. This person is not going to take care of you. So it's better to get out while you still have the ability to do that than to stay there. So Susie is saying just what I said. Yes, we need to realize that they will not be there when you get old or have a serious illness like cancer. Yep, that's true. So Lisa says, when she skinned her knee at his sister's house, he put on a show and took good care of me to show her, I think. That's absolutely right. Sociopaths will do this, will act loving and caring when they have an audience. They're trying to bamboozle other people too. So yeah, and that happens a lot of times when people, they go out, they go to church, they go to a friend's party, and the sociopathic spouse is doting on them, and the minute they get back home behind closed doors, it's like, that's all done. So it's all an act. CC says she had 1 day to get better when she was sick. Yep, that's typical. All right, so Tiny Face McGee says, how do we get recovery healing for the financial loss? I'm so angry. If there is no chance of recouping the losses, which is often the case, the only thing you can really do is to work on healing the emotional wounds. Because a financial loss does cause an emotional wound. And I mean, you always want to do that anyway, but sometimes that's all you can do. I mean, all you can do is really allow yourself to feel the pain, feel the betrayal, feel the disappointment, and let it come up and really allow it to be there. And an amazing thing happens that when you do that, it actually starts to dissipate and to get out of your system. And this is actually one of the considerations with whether or not you even decide to pursue trying to be made whole financially, because in order to do that, you still have to be entangled with the sociopath, and consequently that makes it more difficult for you to recover emotionally, because it's still like this open wound that you're trying to deal with the sociopath. So when you're deciding whether or not to try and go after the sociopath for your financial losses, this is a key consideration, because recognize that in order to heal emotionally, you need to end the involvement, you need to have no contact, and if you decide to pursue the money, you're still having contact, which means that you can't recover emotionally. So sometimes that's all you can do. All you can do is, work on your emotional recovery and pick up the pieces and start over, or move on. Knowing that sometimes you may have an opportunity later on to expose the sociopath. I mean, this can happen. I know in my case, I lost $250,000 or more, actually, which I tried. I did an international asset search. I really tried to get that money. And when I got to the point that I had to accept that I failed and that I was not going to get that money back, it hurt, and I collapsed. But once I got that emotional pain out of my system, like a couple weeks later, my life started to turn around again. So sometimes it's just a matter of figuring out a way to let it go. Susie Bassey says, try small claims court. You can file by yourself and maybe win. If he's working, or a paycheck can be garnished. If he owns a car or home or a lien, you put that on those. Well, that's always a key decision. I mean, does the sociopath have any assets? Does he have or she have any money? My ex didn't. He blew $1 million between me and the other woman that he took money from. It's just gone. It wasn't anywhere. So that's always the first consideration. I mean, is there anything to get? Often there isn't. And if there is, then everything else that I was talking about, whether or not you really want to do it. Okay, so C says, it felt so confusing to be told in 1 week that I love you, you're everything, blah, blah, and I felt like he was talking like a teenage boy. Confusion is a red flag that I wish I would have listened to my gut. Yes. If you are confused about a relationship, that is one of the top signs that you could be dealing with someone who has a personality disorder, because it just doesn't make sense. There's no stability. So if you're confused, pay attention. That's an important thing. And yes, listening to your gut and listening to your instincts is always the best thing. Your instincts are there to protect you. Our instincts developed over millennia to warn us of danger. So if you're getting a bad feeling about someone, or you just have an intuition that something isn't right, recognize that is the best warning you will ever get, and you really need to pay attention to that. Okay, all right, everybody. Well, thank you so much for joining me tonight, and we'll see you next week for the next episode of Lovefraud Live. Good night.